Yeah, we're just going back to the original article that started this question. That got me thinking about this question was it was an article from Metro Style by Hershey Neri. It's called "How to Wear Philippine Indigenous Textiles Responsibly,"
Right.
according to a textile expert. Um, so in this article, there's a few questions that I guess is a good start for people who want to, I don't know, start using Igorot textiles in their work. But I was interested in seeing what you guys thought about these questions. So first, did did the indigenous group give their consent to use the textile? I don't know. This is a little difficult. Like, how would they? how
Yeah.
would how would they get consent as a whole? Um,
And
I
who
don't
do you
know.
ask, right? Who do you
Yeah, and
ask?
it's a good thought.
True.
But yeah, I don't really know where they would get that kind of consent. I don't know.
For me,
Yeah.
most of the like articles like these to me are just these like woke, like left wing kind of like
Actually,
posts to me.
this is honestly one of the better articles that I've read, to be
No,
honest.
true. No, that's true. That's
Um,
true. But
yeah,
it is in that line of like BuzzFeed, like, oh,
yeah, yeah.
how to
I
be
know,
responsible.
I know
But
what you mean. It's true.
yeah, right,
So,
right. But
first
yeah.
question was, did the indigenous group give their consent to use the textile? Next question, was
Mm,
the community consulted?
mm,
Kind of along the same lines. Another
mm,
question,
Yeah.
are the communities compensated fairly? That's pretty interesting.
yeah.
Another question, is it's okay for foreigners to wear our indigenous textile? And is it okay to mix textiles from different communities together in one piece?
Mm.
How
In one
can,
piece? What does that mean?
yeah. So
Like
maybe
if
Oh,
like
you
like,
mean
someone's
mixing?
yeah,
wearing a
so probably
palanga
like
weave,
with buntok or abra,
yeah,
Oh
or
yeah,
even
yeah.
something southern, like a southern style
right?
weave, and then mixed with, yeah. I think that's what they're kind of like.
In the
Right,
northern style,
exactly.
yeah.
And then how can I know if the brand or designer I'm buying from is ethical? Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, so those are just some of the questions that they pose in this article, and I don't know.
Mm,
I think
That's
they're
fair.
they're
Yeah.
they're decent questions to think about and ask for designers, especially
yeah,
when
agree.
talking about textiles. But yeah, some of them it's like, yeah, how are you going to get a complete consensus? Isn't it? It's impossible.
Sure, for sure.
I
Because
think it
even
just depends on how big the community is. You know, how big
Um,
that community is, because this isn't like we're thinking from our context, but like if you're like from a really small local village and you had like a, like you had only like you have a specific design that nobody else around you has, that
mhm.
kind of thing.
It's
That's
gonna
where
true,
that context would work.
true,
Like
yeah,
true.
it's always gonna be, I think, the nature of the relationship. And if a person, if the designers, the artists, the people who are putting together the textile, wants to acknowledge it, it's going to depend on the nature of that relationship. Some people just see something that they saw and they were inspired by it, and then they roll with their version of it. I don't know if you could really truly help that, other than the
Mm,
fact that you just want to ask that person, hey, where'd you get that from,
mhm.
um but for the most part, I think that that's what people do. They see something that looks, um, that looks quite pleasing, and they're gonna try to replicate it. If it has a sense of beauty in it,
Mhm.
they're gonna replicate it. And why not? I
Yeah.
mean, we do stuff like that in terms of like our architecture. We do that stuff in terms of our build design. When we remodel our house, we look at the person who has like this the something that like really nice. I remember the cops. I had police officers visit my house one day, and uh
The
they were
gongs are too
investigating a
loud.
certain they were investigating a certain
God,
case, and then a
we've
bunch of
had
them were
that.
in here and in the house, and they were like, "Hey, I like how your kitchen looks." And they just started taking pictures of the kitchen because they like how it looks. And one guy was actually doing a remodel, and because the house, the kitchen looks modern as opposed to the rest of the house, which looks like it was built in the 1980s. And so then they just started taking pictures of it, and I was like, "Oh, Okay. So then I think that sometimes you're looking at something that looks pleasing and beautiful, and you want to kind of like mimic that. You want to kind
Mhm.
of like almost own it. And yeah, I get where, there should be an acknowledgement of where it comes from. But if it gets mainstream enough, it's going to be embedded within the culture
Mhm.
in ways that we really don't know, and it'll come to a point where you don't quite know where it came from. If it really gets that big, you kind of don't know where it comes from. You just kind of like know it was from that area, that direction. Oh yeah, it was somewhere in the Philippines. It might have been from
Mm.
the northern part of the Philippines, in the mountain
Yeah.
areas, but you
But
might
that
not
takes
know
so much
exactly
time,
what.
right?
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
that?
That takes time for it to actually get to that point where it becomes like a cultural, like it becomes embedded in the culture or the wider mainstream culture. It takes a long time, and at that point, like the original piece becomes bastardized into this, like again, to this like pan Filipino like identity. So I think that's
Mm.
basically what you're trying to get at, right?
In part, yeah, I think that ultimately, uh, I I would say that with if we're using textile that looks kind of indigenous, you just you gotta say where that stuff comes from. And I get it. Like some artists, like remember when gosh,